Hello and welcome to the analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated October 31st, 2022. In this video, we are going to talk about two important newspaper articles. These articles are going to be very important, very significant for the civil services examination. But this doesn't discard the fact that other articles in the newspaper were not important. So here's a list of important newspaper articles which you can consider reading from the Hindu newspaper dated October 31st. If this is very clear to you, do consider subscribing to this channel to never miss an update from the bureaucratic way. And apart from it, you can also join us on Telegram to get all the important PDFs important for the civil services examination. So with this, let's now head to the first important newspaper article for the day. Now this particular newspaper article is regarding the DNA test. Now DNA tests according to this particular article have been increasing over time. And what are the reasons? There are various reasons for it. For example, to prove the legitimacy of a child and all the other aspects. Alright. So now the DNA tests occupy a gray area in the quest for justice, vacillating between the dangers of slipping into self-incrimination and encroachment on individual privacy and imminent need to unearth the truth. So there are two factors over here, right? There are two things. That is, the first is the imminent need to unearth the truth. You are seeking the truth, and that is why you need a DNA test. Now this is the positive effect. First, now the negative effect. Negative effect is the encroachment on the individual privacy. See, if you are going through the DNA test, then your privacy is somewhat violated, right? So now the DNA test can be of help as evidence in a criminal case or in proving a claim of marital infidelity or paternity. Now this is the benefit of the DNA test. And if you consider the Supreme Court judgments, then the Supreme Court recently held in a case concerning a woman known as, now identity has been hidden, but it says, this particular judgment says that that compelling an unwilling person to undergo a DNA test would be a violation of personal liberty and right to privacy. This is what is being said by the Supreme Court, and this turns the spotlight on a technology that aids the cause of justice but violates privacy. Alright, so now this particular case is very clear that any unwilling person, if he undergoes or he or she undergoes the DNA test, that is the violation of the personal liberty and right to privacy. But there are some issues regarding the justice system in this regard, because the various courts differ, or in various cases the court differs on various cases basis, right? Do you understand it, right? So but the issue is problematized by the varying stances of both the apex court and the high court that tends to focus on the particularities of each case. Each particular case is different, and that is why the judgments are varying. Now these particular judgments lead to confusion, a lot of confusion between the individuals. Now the women's right activists say that DNA test is the only tool which can deliver justice in cases of abandonment of mothers and children. So if a father abandons a child and his mother, so then what will happen? In this case, the problem is only sorted after the father undergoes the DNA test, but the same applies to the mother as well, right? Now precedents set by the Supreme Court through the years show that judges cannot order genetic test as roving inquiry. This was said by Bhabani Prasad Jina 2010. This was said in Bhabani Prasad Jina case 2010. And they must balance the interest of the parties. This was said in Banarsi Das 2005. Now DNA test should also not be ordered if there was other material evidence at hand to prove the case. If you have enough material evidence to prove the case, then you cannot inquire, or you cannot order a DNA test. But there may be differences in it. Now in its Ashok Kumar judgment, the court said judges before ordering a genetic test should examine proportionality of the legitimate aims being pursued. So the cause must be just, it must be legitimate. and that is only when you can order a genetic test like a DNA. This was being said in Ashok Kumar judgment. So what's the conundrum over here? So what happens is that, but 7 years ago, the court heard a man's plea for a DNA test to prove his wife's infidelity and the parentage of their children, and sought a test to be done on himself and the child. Now this was to prove the infidelity of the wife, right? So the court agreed, reasoning there was no other way for him to know that fact. And the court also held that the wife could refuse it, but it would lead to the risk. It would risk the presumptions being drawn against her that her intention is somewhat to not get the justice done. All right. So while dealing with the claims of infidelity, we consider what is known as Section 112 of the Indian Evidence Act. Right. Section 112 of the Indian Evidence Acts. Now, a request for DNA also competes with conclusiveness of this particular Indian Evidence Act, that is Section 112 of the Indian Evidence Act, which presumes that a child born to a married woman is legitimate. So, it proves that, or it presumes that a child born to a married woman is legitimate, and the burden to prove that this child is illegitimate, it rests upon the person. All right, it rests upon the father. All right, so now in this case the woman can deny this particular case. So there are very gray areas in this particular DNA test when it comes to DNA test, right? So now what lies ahead? So while the imperative of the justice jostles with that of bodily autonomy, the Constitution bench judgment in the K.S. Puttaswamy case, recognizing privacy as a part of the fundamental right to life, has only buttressed the privacy argument as the government's bid to pilot the DNA Technology Regulation Bill 2019 through Parliament hangs fire. Now there is also a bill which is known as DNA Technology Regulation Bill 2019. We do not know what is going to happen to this particular bill, but the case may rest on whether this is fundamental violation of privacy or not, which is guaranteed by Article 21, right? So we do not know at this point of time what will happen, but as and when it happens, we will again discuss this particular DNA test. All right. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. Let's now head to the next important newspaper article. Now this is going to be a very short article, right? You are not going to get into the details of what ISRO has planned or what it has done in the past. We will just read out what is written in this particular newspaper article, and that would be very sufficient. Now our Prime Minister Mr. Modi says that OneWeb satellites will enhance rural connectivity. Now what is OneWeb satellites? So we'll read about it, right? So describing the simultaneous placement of 36 OneWeb satellites into orbit a week ago as a major feat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday said the move would strengthen the digital connectivity across the country. Now 36 OneWeb satellites were 36 satellites were placed into the orbit so that connectivity in the rural areas can be increased. Now, Prime Minister Modi also says that it is going to strengthen the digital connectivity. Now, Prime Minister said that after opening up of the space sector, revolutionary changes has started coming into it. Domestic industries and startups were bringing innovations and the new technologies. Now that the startups and the other domestic industries are allowed to enter into the space industry, which means that there is going to be more innovation. This is what is the fundamental purpose of the privatization of the space, privatization of space. The space industry at this particular point of time is just ruled by the ISRO, but few of the things are being done by the private industries as well, right? And NGO companies were getting the facility to launch their payloads and satellites to the in space. All right, so now you can make a satellite and then the in space will launch it, or the or the space is part of ISRO, so ISRO will launch your satellite. This is what is the fundamental purpose of this particular newspaper article, to explain that it is not, the digital connectivity is increasing, and at the same time startups and domestic industries are also showing signs of going or venturing into the space, right? So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. I know this was very short. I'm very sorry. From tomorrow onwards, we are going to go on time. We are going to go on 4 p.m. live. All right. So be patient, please. And this is it regarding this particular video. Thank you from my side. Do like and share the video and subscribe to this channel. Have a good night ahead. Bye.